Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over how to paint a Daemon Prince of Khorne. Starting with the primer, I typically use Vallejo Model Black for the vast majority of models. This one's going to be no exception. I have the Daemon Prince broken into a few sub-assemblies, specifically the body on the base, as well as the tail, the two shoulder pieces, the two thigh pieces, and the two wings are all separate. So that way, this is going to make it much more easier to get into the nooks and crannies as we start applying other colors later on. But for now, everything's based black. So the first major color that I'm going to put on after the primer is going to be Khorne Red, and this is going to cover all of the skin areas. So the tail, the body, and the wings specifically are all going to be covered in Khorne Red. Once that base coat is applied, I'm going to do Null oil, which is a wash, and that's going to be done over the entire model, over all of the red pieces that have already been painted. Now, the main thing to make sure when you're applying a wash is to ensure that it gets into all of the recesses. You don't want it to stay stagnant on any of the flat areas or any of the highlighted areas, because that's going to lead to some coffee staining. While the wash dries, what I'm going to do next is end up painting with Averland Sunset the inside of all the etchings on the two shoulder pieces. Now the shoulder pieces are primarily going to be black and bronze, but the intricate work that's inside or shown on both of those, you need another color to make it stand out. Just doing highlights isn't going to be enough. So with that, Averland Sunset is a good base color because I want to use that to basically make a very high contrast. So ultimately I want to use Yuriel yellow to make it a nice bright yellow, but Yuriel yellow is a little bit more difficult to apply, especially straight onto black. So I'm using Averland Sunset to basically have that base down, and then I'm going to paint Yuriel yellow all over it. Now with those yellows done, I'm going to use Mephiston red, and I'm basically going to dry brush all of the red parts thus far. So I'm basically going back to the skin area, the tail, the wings, as well as the body, and I'm going to do a heavy dry brush over the entire model. This is so that way the darker areas and the recesses still stay dark and you still have that Khorne red, but all of the higher areas, specifically like the bulging muscles and things like that, are going to be a much brighter red. Now that that dry brush is finished being applied, I'm going to do another dry brush, and this is for Evil Sunz Scarlet, which is another step above Mephiston red. And again, I'm going to do a dry brush, a lighter dry brush this time, and it's going to be focused on areas that are the high points and ridges. So the claws, the face, the upper arms, and the muscles, as well as the edges of the actual wings. To finish off the skin, I use a glaze, Bloodletter glaze from GW, and I'm going to put this over all of the red that I've already done. And this is to basically bring everything together so that way you don't have that much of a stark contrast between the various levels of dry brushing. While the glaze is drying, I'm going to use Administrating gray to do some black highlights, and this is going to be on the two black shoulder pieces, specifically around the etchings that are in the center, as well as the two thigh pieces. With the edge highlight done, I'm going to start blocking in the bronze here on the armor. So this is going to be Balthasar gold is where I'm going to start off with this. And I'm basically going to go around and hit up all of the trim on both the shoulder pads as well as the thigh pads. Moving back to the body, I'm going to start getting in all the bone. So for this, I'm going to use Zandri dust. So with this color, you want to focus on the horns that are sticking out of the head, the claws that are hopping out of the toes, as well as the wings. And also there's going to be these bone-like protrusions going down the spine and the tail, and you want to hit up all of these. And don't forget the talon that is behind the foot. To finish off the detached armor panels, I'm going to use a edge highlight of Stormhost Silver, and this is going to go around all of the bronze. With that highlight complete, the detached armor plates are all done. They're all taken care of. So we're going to go back to the body and we're going to do a edge highlight with Ushapti bone. And this is going to be, again, an edge highlight over all of the bone areas. With the Ushapti bone done, I'm going to use Leadbealcher, and this is going to be a little bit of a darker silver, and I'm going to put this over all of the silver pieces that are on the shoulders, as well as, specifically in this case, the chain mail that's dangling between the demon's legs. Next up, I'm going to start getting some of the black out of the way on the demon itself. So in this case, I'm going to start with doing Vallejo black, and that's going to be done over all of the wing membranes. So both front and back, I want to make it so that way it's all black. To finish off the wings, I'm going to do a dry brush with two different colors. The first dry brush is going to be Dawnstone, and that is going to be a little bit of a heavy dry brush over the black panels on the wings, the membrane. Following that, I'm going to use Administrating Gray. Again, dry brush, but much lighter, and going to be going over the same areas that I hit the Dawnstone with. With the wings now effectively done, we can move back to the body and focus on the body for the rest of the video. At this point, I'm going to use Vallejo Black to block in all of the black armor that is basically built into the body. This is going to be heavily focused on around the arms, specifically where the elbow is all the way to the talons, as well as little areas around the crotch region. Next, we're going to block in all of the bronze area, and that's going to be Balthasar gold again. Again, going over all of the trim that is on your armor plates already connected to the body. For the handful of leather straps that are on top of the chainmail, I use Rhinos hide to block that in. And with the black armor done, I can now use Zandri dust to basically do the teeth that is on the demon's right hand. Also on the demon's right hand, I'm going to use Averland Sunset to basically do the eyes that are etched into the armor. Now that those colors are blocked in, I'm going to use Null oil, and that's going to cover all of the silver pieces to give them a little bit more definition, as well as the teeth that are on the right arm. Now, just make sure that you're pretty careful at this stage because you don't want this slopping all over the place. Next up is Reikland Fleshshade, and this is going to be over all of the bronze. And this is going to tone it down a bit. So what I'm going to do at this point is start on the base. Now I do a very simple base for all of my miniatures. The bases that I do are generally pretty simple, so that way they don't detract from the model itself. And it basically just using some battlefield gravel from Army Painter and some PVA glue. Basically you just put the PVA glue down, use a brush that you don't really care about to spread it out across, and then just pour the sand on. Once the PVA glue is dried, giving roughly about an hour typically, I'm going to use Vallejo Black, and I'm going to cover the entire base as well as the edges on the rim, so that way everything's nice and black. While I wait for the base to dry, I'm going to use Administrating Gray, and this is going to be for an edge highlight over all of the black. Specifically going to be focusing around the face on the right arm, as well as all of the other edges, including the small little black on the headpiece. And going back to the base to finish that off real quick, I'm going to use Tyrant Skull, which is a dry paint, and basically going to dry brush that all over the base, and that's it. You're done with the base. For the eyes, I'm just going to do a small dab of Yuriel yellow on both eye sockets. And the last major piece that needs to be done, and it's going to be one of the longest, is to do a edge highlight using Stormhost silver over all of the bronze across the entire model. And with that edge highlight done, the model is effectively done. You can basically just assemble the remaining pieces at this point, and you're good to go. I had a lot of fun painting this model. It's been a while since I've painted a Khorne Daemon Prince. Hopefully you guys got some use out of this tutorial. Until next time.